Russia has blown the whistle on a U.S. devaluation scheme.
America is trying to change the rules in the gold and cryptocurrency markets. Remember how much debt they have, $35 trillion.
Dropping a global bombshell this week, accusing the U.S. of plotting to erase its $37 trillion debt burden by taking said debt, shoving it into crypto, devaluing it, and then resetting the system with a gold revaluation. A series of moves that wouldn't just impact those using cryptocurrency, but would impact the entire dollar system, meaning your savings, your retirement, your paycheck. But the scariest part is that the plan is already in motion. In case you missed it, Anton Kobiakov, a senior advisor to Russian President Vladimir Putin, made a bold claim this week at the Eastern Economic Forum, stating that the United States is preparing to reset the system, using crypto and gold to erase its massive debt burden.
Driving everyone where? Into the cryptocurrency cloud. Right now they have a $35 trillion currency debt. They move it into crypto, into the cloud, devalue it, and start from scratch.
But here's where it gets interesting. Just a few months ago, President Trump signed into law the Genius Act, legislation that creates regulatory framework for stablecoins. Stablecoins being a type of cryptocurrency that maintain a stable value by being pegged to a real-world asset, such as the dollar. But not all is as it appears. On the surface, it was hailed as innovative and the U.S. adopting a new digital world that will keep us competitive. But if you look a little bit closer, there are many who say this is the foundation and legal framework for the United States to use these stablecoins as a lifeline for our debt. None of this even takes into consideration the fact that these stablecoins could also be a Trojan horse for financial control over the American people, taking away our freedom and privacy. But that is a separate video that I've already covered. If you want to watch that, I will link it below. But back to the government scheme. It's no secret that as U.S. debt soars past $37 trillion, the U.S. is facing a buyer's crisis. Foreign central banks are dumping treasuries and moving into gold, a clear sign of declining trust in the dollar. In fact, as Kobiakov himself said, the U.S. is very eager to solve the problem of declining trust in the dollar. This is a massive problem for America because the fewer the buyers there are, the higher the yields, meaning higher interest rates that the U.S. then has to pay just to keep the system afloat, making it harder for us to roll over our debt or inflate away our debt, essentially compounding the debt crisis we already have. Enter stablecoins. These digital tokens that are backed one-to-one by U.S. treasuries essentially create an artificial demand for our debt, propping up the entire system and giving us the lifeline we need. Now imagine if the U.S. pushes adoption of these stablecoins, either by policy, regulation, or promoting them as the new safe digital dollar, all of which, by the way, is already starting to happen. Foreign investors, institutions, even retail would hold these stablecoins in mass, which again are backed one-to-one by U.S. treasuries. So essentially, it would be like a cloud-based treasury market that would be disguised as a payment system. That solves problem one, the demand for our debt. But Kobiakov takes it a step further, claiming that the United States is plotting to weaponize stablecoins. Essentially, once enough U.S. debt is tokenized into these stablecoins, that's when they will turn around and depeg or devalue them. So instead of being one-to-one, one stablecoin to one USD equivalent, maybe it's one stablecoin to 50 cents USD equivalent. All holders would eat the loss, effectively reducing their wealth by 50%, while America would be able to reduce the debt burden significantly without ever having to call it a default. But here's the kicker. Even if you don't have any cryptocurrency, even if you never touch a stablecoin, this devaluation won't just hit foreign nations and financial institutions. It will hit all dollar-denominated assets, everything within the dollar system, your savings, your retirement, your paycheck. All of it would lose value overnight. And if you still don't believe me or you think that this will never happen, it already has. Something that Kobiakov has the you-know-what to call out on a global stage.
The U.S., just as it did in the 1930s and 1970s, will solve its financial problems at the expense of the entire world, driving everyone where? Into the cryptocurrency cloud. Over time, when part of the U.S. national debt is placed in stablecoins, the U.S. will devalue that debt.
In the 1930s, he's referring to gold confiscation, when the U.S. pulled a fast one on the American citizens, confiscating their gold bullion. Rare and collectible coins were exempt, which is one of the many reasons why it is so important that when we talk about a gold revaluation, or you're considering your own gold and silver strategy, that you work with someone who understands history, right, and the different functions of gold and silver. But President Roosevelt back then in the 30s, he revalued gold from $20.67 an ounce to $35 an ounce, effectively wiping out 41% of purchasing power of the dollar for everyone who held dollar bills. Then we have the 1970s, when he is referring to America's default. Yes, default. I said the word. America defaulted on its promise to foreign nations that they could convert their dollar holdings into gold. Over the next 10 years, the American citizens lost half of their purchasing power due to inflation. That global rug pull, that is what Russia is accusing the United States of plotting to do again. But the sad part is that it seems as though no one has learned their lessons from these past events. In each instance, when a currency devaluation has taken place, it is proven that it is the underlying asset, in all of these instances gold, that provides true wealth, power, and control. Whereas everyone who has the currency that is pegged to or attached to or promised to or whose value is derived from the underlying asset is leaving themselves completely vulnerable to the country who controls the asset. Which brings us to, as Kobiakov put it, the other alternative segment to the global currency, one being cryptocurrency, one being gold, saying that the United States is trying to rewrite the rules with gold. What does he mean by that? Well, it's no secret that the United States has been considering a gold revaluation. Some might dismiss it as conspiracy, but there have been a number of things this year, starting with Scott Bessent talking about a gold revaluation, monetizing the asset side of the balance sheet. Then we had the Federal Reserve just a month ago come out with a research note on gold revaluations in other nations and how they have used those revaluations to help pay off their debt. We could be looking at a two-pronged approach. See, prong one is offload the debt into stable coins, and then once there's enough of it there, devalue said debt. Prong two is going to be an official gold revaluation, where we would see the price of gold rise to reignite trust and faith into the American system. That is a scenario we could see play out. And if that happens, we would see the price of gold rise tremendously. We're talking tens and tens of thousands of dollars here. But we might not even have to wait for an official gold revaluation to see the effects of what is being said. See, just the fact that this scheme is being called out on a global scale publicly could mean that we see central banks further accelerate their gold buying, a trend that they have already been doing the last couple of years, buying the most gold in modern history as they position themselves for this reset. But now that it's becoming public knowledge, well, they might try and front run any moves the United States is making. One, by buying more gold as quickly as they can, and two, by continuing to offload their treasuries, but maybe at a more rapid pace. Not only that, we could see different nations, the BRICS bloc, make bigger moves and position themselves at the center of the new financial system. In fact, Kobiakov said as much.
The world isn't just moving to a new type of financial system. The world is moving away from fiat money and dividing into zones.
But while I can't say with certainty what geopolitical alignments lie ahead or the timeline of these next moves, I can say with certainty based on history that the United States is up to no good. They will continue to choose to save the system at the expense of you. And the only way to truly protect yourself outside of that system is with physical gold and silver. The signs could not be any clearer. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. So for anyone out there who's been trying to wrap their head around what's coming next for the dollar and what's coming next for gold, I really hope this helped everyone understand the accelerating reset that we're living through and how you can use gold and silver to not only survive but thrive on the other side of this reset.